And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Interlude Media, spelled that right, NTRLD Media. I'm your host, Nick DeSantis, but you might know me as Nickie Nicknames. And of course, I am joined by my co-host, the man holding it down on the ones and twos. That is Todd Roshong, but you might know him as T-Bro Price because he does understand that return on your investment. And ladies and gentlemen, this today is Interlude Spins, an album review podcast for two friends chop it up regarding the greatest records you didn't know you needed to know, with the goal of teaching you something new and us more about our favorite artists and albums. And of course, I would be remiss if I don't mention that each one of our episodes is mixed, mastered, edited, and produced by One Time Productions. Welcome to episode 1 of Interlude Spins. T, take us away.
Nickie Nicknames, it is great to be back on the mic with you.
Yes,
great
sir.
to be entering season 2 of the Interlude podcast. As you say, Interlude Spins, where we finally get a chance to break the mold a little bit, jump into a little bit new format, something that we've discussed over our past couple episodes. If you didn't listen to those, make sure to go check them out. Hear Nick and I's thoughts as we kind of grow and evolve Interlude Media here. But Nick, record reviews, this is something we've been talking about for a while.
Yes,
you
sir.
know, we're recording this today on Tuesday, February 3rd. So a couple nights ago were the Grammys. What better place to start us off than with Aubrey Graham himself?
Listen. Todd was telling me the whole day, yo, I got a pun that you gonna go crazy for. That was good. I'll give it to you.
Had to kick things off. So we are, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't see on the Interlude socials earlier this week, we're kicking things off with Nothing Was the Same. I believe the third studio album by Drake, released in 2013. Nickie Nicknames got it up in front of you here. You wanna do a little jump into why we chose this as our first record review of Interlude Spins?
No, definitely. I think, well, as I said in the reveal video, I think the pun with the name, obviously nothing was the same. We are hoping that the original podcast was the idea to an idea, and this might be the idea. We will see. So nothing was the same. We are going to change up, but as we will get into with the project, a lot of things are still the same, as you might see. So, parallels with the album, we like that. But truly, the main reason why is if you've been really a true listener, the L&L. What do we call
the L&L? The lovely listeners, the loyal listeners.
Lovely listeners, loyal listeners. Ooh, the lovely listener. Hey, come on now. So if you are part of the L&L crew and you've listened to the end of one of our episodes, you will know that Todd and I do a little skit to close each one of our episodes. And of course, that skit is not a direct take, but we're stealing the flow, copying
we're sampling
the intro to the outro. Yes, a sample. How about that? Little sample. But that's kind of crazy. It's the intro to the outro from this album, specifically on the song Pound Cake, is what we are recreating to close out our podcast. So I kind of felt it was right. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, damn, I feel like we got to do that album. And that's what I said to Todd. I said, bro, you know what we got to do. We got to do that Pound Cake. Come on now. So
there are a few albums that we know we need to get to because they have, meaning to us in one way or another. But it'll be fun seeing how we're going to end up deciding what our future albums are going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening right now, stay tuned to the end of the episode to hear what we're planning to review next week. And we hope that at that time you'll be able to join in, listen along to the record over the next week or so. And then when our episode comes out, you'll be able to kind of take part in the conversation in a little bit of your own way. And obviously, if you have thoughts on this album, on this episode that we have here, feel free to let us know. Shoot us a DM, whatever it is. We're always eager to hear the thoughts. But with that,
true.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a brand new season of the Interlude Pod, and we don't have kind of our traditional agenda like we used to. We don't have necessarily segments that we're trying to make sure we touch on. We're kind of just going to jump right into the album and kind of jump into the artist. In this particular instance, we're going to talk about Drake and kind of where Drake was back in 2013 when this came out. We're going to talk about what our takeaways from the album are, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we're just gonna let it flow and kind of see how the conversation goes.
I love it. All right. Shall we do it?
I think so. I think you are best suited here to at least give the audience a little bit of context as to the music scene in 2013, the hip hop scene, kind of where Drake is at this point in his career, and what led to the creation of Nothing Was a Shame. Nothing Was the Same.
Definitely. So Drake, as most people know, if you know who Drake is from Toronto, Canada, and is probably, well, now I don't know anymore. He was the biggest artist out of Canada, but the competition with Justin Bieber in The Weeknd by today's standards, that's tough. But he really, I think, at least for rap, put the city on the map for what it could be, what it was. He did not always start off as a rapper, though. I don't think it was like a child actor, but he wasn't very old at all on the TV show Degrassi, which I personally did not know much about, but I know that it was kind of a household show for a lot of people. So that's kind of where he got his start. There was, like he's just well known from that. And then from there decided to kind of pursue a music career. Obviously Drake is kind of best known for being like a pop rap in the sense that he can make a radio hit that a lot of people will gel with. He has a bunch of songs that are over 1 billion streams right now on Spotify. At that time, this is his third studio album. And, well, there's so much to talk about of Drake as a person. But I think at this point in time, he's still trying to figure out who he was. And I think that's probably the best way to encompass kind of where we are. There's been 2 projects. I think we should mention his first studio album, Thank Me Later. That was like the coming out, and here's Drake, this and that. The second album was Take Care, which I might have to look this up, but fairly certain here that he wins the Grammy for Rap Album of the Year for. Now, something, that?
I don't know exactly which Grammy he took home from Take Care, but I know that Take Care was where he started to really get some accolades in his career. Right. And so this record here, Nothing Was the Same, follows up on that. Yeah.
100%. And I'm fairly certain it was Rap Album of the Year because I remember him getting backlash because Drake obviously raps on songs, and he is also a singer, and will sing a lot of hooks, this and that. And so some people didn't really like him winning Rap Album of the Year. They thought it was more like, here, this could be R&B or this should be a pop project.
Yeah. He kind of blends genres a little bit. Yeah.
Right. And so it kind of was that thing where people were like true hip hop heads were upset at. Sure. I personally think that's ridiculous. I think that's kind of the general frame of it. And I think he just kind of started showcasing how rap can evolve to what it can be. But I think point being is that he really did want to prove something on this project. And we're now at a level of fame where we're known. Like Drake is now a household name, and it's time to keep that standard for what it is, right? So I think that's probably the biggest thing here is that, every artist is nothing at one point in time, but he is definitely somebody right now. And that's 2013 Drake.
Yeah, I think so. To build on that a little bit, like we said, Take Care took home Grammys, and like you said, he's really a kind of a household name in music at this point in 2013. But I felt like a lot of what you get out of this album is like, I'm here, like I have the fame, I have the recognition, but he still didn't feel like he had the respect or the appreciation, especially as a rapper, but I think just kind of as a whole. And I think that tone underlies a lot of this album of just like trying to prove himself more as an artist, as a rapper, that he deserves the fame and the fortune that he got off of Take Care, and that
Right.
Like you said, Take Care. And I mean, I guess it's been true of kind of every Drake album, but Take Care was really where it kind of blew up. Was like you said, he can make a radio hit, right? And like it can be something that is poppy and vibey, and a lot of people get on with. And I think this album was, in some ways, a take of like, I can still do that, but I still have so much more to offer beyond that, and I want to be respected for my versatility to do both.
I also think it's another thing that we should mention is Drake was signed to the Young Money record label, which was run by a guy named Birdman, who, if you know rap, you know who Birdman is. But if you don't know rap, you know their biggest artist, which is Lil Wayne. And Lil Wayne is obviously a prominent rapper, big time guy. And this is the first Drake album without a Wayne feature. And so I think that's pretty telling, right? Like in the sense that he always kind of needed Wayne before just for the help of getting recognition or getting whatever that may be. And now it's like, no, like this is my project. And I think that's all accumulated in the last song on the deluxe edition, which is of course All Me, where he's just like, I did it with no help. This is all me.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's true, but you know what I mean? I'm not going to say that's true, but
sure,
here it is. So that's the start.
Cool. No, I like it. I mean, how the world is our oyster here in terms of how we want to jump into these episodes. Should we start off with a little bit of like, what do we think the standout moments, the standout songs are? You want to kind of run track list top to bottom? What are you thinking?
Yeah, we could. I mean, we can do whatever. I guess we can. But I think a great way to start for each one of these, and I just saw this right now, though, is do you remember when this album came out? And do you remember your first time listening to it? And what was that like?
Ooh. So obviously 2013 for us.
Freshman year. Yep.
Yeah, for us was 8th grade into freshman year of high school. Fall of freshman year, right? So I can't say I have an exact spot that I remember that I can kind of place myself in. What I do know, I mean, I vividly remember, this is something that we'll get to in the standout moments section, but I know that there was a particular music video that kind of took off, at least at my high school, that like everyone was like huddled around computers in the learning center to just rewatch it. So that's kind of a funny.
Which one was that?
Yeah. The video for "Hold On, We're Going Home."
Oh yes. Wow.
It's like a full.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
It's like a full cinematic experience, the creation of that music video. And so I wasn't going to dive too deep into that because I think we're more so here for the music and for the album. But I guess we'll just get it out of the way now. Yeah, that was one of my like honorable mention moments was actually the music video for that song and just experiencing that. I remember, like I said, I had my friends and I were gathered around laptops and whatever, watching that in school, watching it after school. I probably saw that video, dozens of times. Shortly after it came out, it was like that was something that was just on repeat. So I can put myself in those shoes, but in terms of like listening top to bottom through the album, I don't have a specific place that I was. What about you?
The core memory of the music video to "Just Hold On, We're Going Home" from this album, that's all you needed. That's perfect. I just remember like when I was younger and that like freshman year of high school, I always thought Drake was just kind of like this pop artist, and I also wasn't as probably big into rap as I am right now, so I didn't really pay the respect that I did. Like I just didn't think of him as like a guy that I'd want to listen to. And I got to give a shout out to my boy, Colton Van Til, one time. I remember him telling me, like, no, this album's different, bro. Like, there's songs on here that you have to listen to. And I, as you guys will learn listening to this podcast, I obviously have this physically on vinyl, but I also have a huge, massive CD collection that is headquartered in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, Washington. And I remember when that came out, because Colton said that, I ran to Target and them and got the deluxe edition on CD. And he wasn't wrong. This was the album that definitely put me onto Drake. which is weird to say, but like I think we were young enough that like that makes sense. This was my first real time with Drake.
Yeah, I can understand that, because when Take Care came out, we were in middle school, right? And so that wasn't necessarily like kind of high on our radars. I mean, I know for me, this is something that I think people will, if you couldn't already tell, will kind of come to learn about me, is that frankly, I don't have that deep of music knowledge, be it hip hop and what a lot of what we're going to talk about here, but really music in general. I know that a lot of people growing up, and I believe this was true for you from your father, that you get a lot of music influence from your parents and kind of the way that music resonates with them. And so for me growing up, anytime I was in the car with my father, if we were going to a baseball game or whatever it was, he didn't play music in the car. Like maybe he had like kind of sports radio on very low volume in the car, but like there was no music in the car. That's some
Northeast type shit, bro. Just listen to sports radio.
Sure. So that's what my dad did. And then for my mom, I also feel like she's not passionate about music in that way. And so there was never like, we would get in the car if she's driving us to school or whatever. And it was just like, all right, throw on, growing up in the New York City area, Z100 is like today's pop hits. And it was just like, leave that on the radio station. A couple songs will play, you get ads. And so all of that to say is like, I didn't have an affinity for music for a very long period of time. I just kind of heard whatever was the pop hits. As I grew up and got into high school, I have always been a fan of country music. I think we've spoken on that on this podcast before as well, from the storytelling aspect of country music, but also from the experience of going to country concerts. I find to be very, very fun, something that I enjoy. And so that's kind of been it in terms of like my growing up with music. And so taking the time to really deep dive into projects like this one, all of that really came after the fact for me. By the time I was later into high school or even into college, before I would kind of go back and listen to hip hop artists and their projects from start to finish. And so I don't have a ton of, I said like core memories with this type of stuff in the time that it came out. A lot of it was kind of learned after the fact.
So when do you think you found your affinity for music, and did Aubrey Graham change that for you?
So found my affinity for music. To answer the questions in order, I would say I found my affinity for music probably like midway through high school.
That checks out, though.
Yeah, I think it's probably a reasonable time, right? Like kind of 16, 17, like you get your first car, you're driving around by yourself, you have full control of it. I mean, for me, my first car that I bought, I had the cassette to aux cord converter.
Yo, that's tough.
I had the cassette tape to aux cord converter. And then to make matters even better, at the time, I think it was when like the iPhone, man, what was it? No, because I think the 6 still had a 3.5 millimeter jack in it. At one point, though, I had the double converter.
Of course you would know that. Who would know that?
Because at one point I had the double converter. I had the cassette to 3.5 millimeter, and then I had to get the dongle, the 3.5 to lightning, so I could plug that into the phone to be able to play music. So it was like... This
is ridiculous.
So either way, I think it was kind of when I could start to drive myself around, start to get like in high school, halfway through high school, start to get like a good pair of headphones, listen to music on the bus on the way to games or whatever it was.
This sounds like prime Drake era though, bro.
Yes, it was prime Drake era, but Drake wasn't the music I was listening to.
Right. No, that's fair. Yeah, for me, I mean, we were doing OVO Thursdays in high school, meaning that you took your OVO sweatshirt and wore it. For those who don't know, that's Drake's record label with the owl. Sure. Shout out OVO. Yep. I can't do it sitting down. OVO reps up. So that's where we were at. So slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There were plenty of kids. There were plenty of kids in my high school in my grade, on my teams, whatever, who were big Drake fans. And like anytime you got music playing in the locker room, it was all Drake, right? It was all Drake. It was also like a lot of Fetty Wap in the locker room for us because Fetty's from Patterson, New Jersey, right up the street. Right, exactly. So that was the type of music that was playing in the locker room, whatever. But otherwise, is that my music taste, especially my hip hop type music taste, didn't develop until later.
But speaking of Fetty Wap, I mean, that's direct Drake influence. There's a lot of people who have been influenced by Drake, but that has nothing to do with the album. I think it's interesting, though. Obviously, high school, you find your sound of what you like to listen to, this and that. And I think this is a project where Drake definitely starts to find his sound in the lane that he wants to roll in, which is almost, you could say, not fully a lane because he can go R&B and he can go rap. But I will say, of all Drake albums, I might go out on air and say this. I think this is the best produced Drake album.
I don't think that's too crazy of a take. I don't know. How would I want to say this? I don't know if like the masses would agree that this is like his best project. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But I think this is, in terms of production, sure. I think this is really good production. And I think that this album is potentially the most impactful of his discography. Influential, maybe.
I don't know. It's so hard to figure out, like, from an album, because you could say, because Drake goes on to do a lot of features with artists and put a lot of artists on. And so I would have to say that is more impactful than maybe just like a single project. But in terms of sound and whatnot, that's a good point. I don't know that one. You would almost have to say, I think it was like, you would have to say Take Care or this album, probably because this is the first time you're really seeing somebody who's singing at a high level and rapping at a high level. So like a Fetty Wap's a perfect example, who comes in and makes that album in probably a few years later. Man, it was maybe around that time. But like that was Fetty's first project. And I think you saw a lot of that start to creep up where people were like, wait a minute, we can do this. Like we don't have to be,
you can kind of be
just
a hybrid.
siloed to a box. Right. Yeah. And so I think, that's interesting. I could probably agree with that. It's so tough though to be like, this album did that when he has albums that are just as big, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially for someone like Drake, who is as big as he is, and has had peaks and valleys throughout his career too. Like he's had really high moments, he's had low moments, and he's bounced back from them. And so there's a lot of obviously character development that happens through that. And so you know, I think his music reflects that kind of every stage of the career thus far. And I'm sure there's still so much more to be seen from Drake. Not in our lifetime. So,
but that is one thing with him, is that he was able to make songs for everybody, right? Like no matter who you were, someone knows a Drake song or likes some sort of Drake song, whether it's for the streets, for the parties, for
absolutely
high school. It didn't matter. Like, and I think that's probably
absolutely
his greatest talent, is that he's able to make a song for almost anybody, and at the same time, you could say that's one of his greatest weaknesses, or what a lot of people, now we're fast forwarding today's day and time, shout out Kendrick, are saying is fake, right? Because it's like you're almost impersonating rather than just being a lane. Like you're trying to be all these things that you're almost just taking instead of being you, which that becomes an interesting debate. And I don't know. Hindsight obviously is 2020, and learning from the Drake Kendrick beef, or that's Kendrick's biggest thing with him, is that you're being fake and you're called a colonizer, just taking sounds and vibes from people. It's weird going back and listening to some of these songs with that perspective in mind, because again, like I said, there's started from the bottom. There's All Me. He was a mixed race kid in Toronto, Canada, with a Jewish mom, and got his start pretty much in television.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the bottom. I'm not here to judge, but I don't know if that's the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Is that all you? I also don't know if that's the case. Now, has he paved a lane for himself and a lot of other artists? That's where I say yes, right? And I don't know how much he's taking when he's developing it and doing it in his own way, which I think is really cool. And I think it's one of the best things about him as an artist / person is just putting others on. And I find that to be dope. I think a lot of big artists that you'll even see, you're like, wow, yeah, I remember like that first interaction with them from a Drake song, especially for me on this project, Jhené Aiko and Sampha. Sampha, I think, has probably the greatest voice ever. That guy has a top 4 voice of all time. He's got to be on Mount Rushmore. Right? It is just one of the most gorgeous voices, and like, he's way more R&B. We could maybe get into him another day, but I didn't know about him until Too Much, the song with him on this project. So I think that was an awesome thing about this album.
I definitely agree. There's a lot of good that came out of just the music industry, kind of as a result of, or at least following on the heels of this record. But I guess speaking on it specifically, like if you were only limited to this track list, what would you say are the standout moments to you? Like what kind of resonates as?
Well, I think it's interesting. Like, I wrote this down. I wanted to go through it. I don't know if we need to go through track lists for every album, but this one I do find very interesting to do so, because if we start from the top, Tuscan Leather is one of my favorite intros to an album of all time, and I think it really just sets a standard. He goes 6 minutes on an intro, which is not necessarily common for introductory songs, and really is just spitting. Like, it's not like welcome to the album. It's like, I'm here.
I have Tuscan as one of my standout moments as well, and I think part of it is exactly that. It's him making a statement saying that, like, I'm here. This is not just going to be the pop hits that you heard of me before. Like, this is something different. I think it's really fascinating that song doesn't have a hook. There is no hook. It's just 6 minutes.
No chorus.
There's no hook. There's 3 beat switches on it, and it's just him going, like, doing his thing.
They kind of like ways. Layer in and out. Right.
So I agree. I think it's a very strong start.
It's also, I think I didn't mention this yet, but 40, who's the executive producer and one of Drake's boys, that he is not always making all the beats, but is definitely heavily influenced in the production and everything like that. I think really just nailed the sound, especially for this song. And it's kind of like a Chipmunk Soul sort of beat, like old school Kanye, but in that era's version of it with some hi-hats and trap drums. And I just love that beat. I think it's a great sound. And I think that's the point of him being like, no, y'all thought I was a singer. I can rap. I'm going to go on the first song without a hook.
Right.
Which is fun. But then he goes right into Furthest Thing. And I think that's just an awesome song to put into perspective of like the album's name and what the vibe is. And I also think it's just interesting to admit that, right? Like the hook is, I'm the furthest thing from perfect, right? And so it's just like, wow, you're just admitting that, like, I'm not it yet.
Yeah.
But I'm here.
I do. Yeah. I think there are, and obviously
fun lines.
There are definitely some fun lines, yeah. And I think obviously we're about to run through the rest of the track list, but I think that's a very recurring theme on this album is the introspection and the kind of the acknowledgement of, like, kind of I'm here, I've got fame, I've got wealth, but there still is a lot of, I guess, insecurity in Drake at this time. And he's kind of very vulnerable and openly admitting a lot of it throughout the whole album. I think it's a recurring theme.
What's one thing I find really fascinating about this song too is this is the most prominent beat switch where it like literally sounds like 2 different songs on Furthest Thing. And the beginning of Furthest Thing, so the first half of the song, it's very much a song that you would hear on Nothing Was the Same, like the album. And it's very, like, I think a crux point for the album just on track 2. The second part of this song is a beat that you would definitely hear on Take Care. And so I find that fascinating, where it's the crux of I'm shifting, but it's still the same, you know? And I don't know. I find that very fascinating on the way that song was built and how he dove with that.
Yeah, it's a very niche call out, because I agree with you. The second half there almost feels like it doesn't belong in a way, beat wise. Like, I think everything else is very cohesive in terms of the production. And we can get more into kind of like the sound engineering and that type of stuff. But yeah, the second half definitely is kind of a callback, but in a way that I guess furthers the story in a way, or at least the type of story that I get out of this album. I don't know. I think this
sets the scene by going back.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say. I think this is the type of stuff where your knowledge, like deeper knowledge of the discography, really gets to shine through, where you can call something like that out and enlighten our listeners and enlighten me too in different ways.
And that's why we're here, brother. That's why we're here.
That's right. That's
the whole point. We're trying to teach y'all something new. You feel me? So that's what's up. But then third song, come on, start from the bottom. Start it. This song. It almost, like, I don't know. I have a revised track list for me, and what I think this album is. I feel like this doesn't have as great cohesion, and I don't really understand this song being here. I think it could be a great intro, and I think it could be a great close. The sound's awesome. It's just a fun song, but it's just odd. I don't know. And it's one of the most memorable Drake songs of all time, though.
Oh, it's
Start
undoubted.
From the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, undoubtedly one of the most memorable ones. Yeah, I don't know if now is the time to get into this, or if it's something to save. And now I'm actually kind of losing my own train of thought. Because you were saying that it kind of screws with the cohesion in a sense.
Yeah.
And where was I going to go with that?
You're
just
getting
the
like a singing song.
Yeah, and the fact that I think this album, in terms of kind of from a further out view, I do think there is a lot of cohesion on the album, but I think there are some songs that are kind of there for the vibe and not for furthering the narrative.
Right.
And I think this is one of those. It's just a vibey song. It's easy to get along with, but it's not necessarily going into the depths of Drake the artist as much as other songs on this record are.
Yeah. I mean, the only caveat to that, in a sense, is that it's like just the naming of it, like started from the bottom, now we hear Nothing Was the Same. Like, it almost, like, if you just read the single and the album as one sentence, like it almost makes sense in that regard. But
it does.
Yes. Like, and that's probably the biggest call out. And I don't want to say like negative thing, but like the biggest call out of Drake is just that, like, he's probably the biggest artist of all time that just doesn't necessarily have a flow, because you just go into so many different things. And well, that also speaks to, like, this album could have been changed or altered in a way to do that. Or you could make an R&B album, and you could make a rap album. Like, I think you see Future do that, right? Like, Future has albums where he just strictly raps, and he has albums where he's kind of in that more like slower paced R&B approach. So he's definitely broke it out, where Drake never did, and he was always trying to do something or prove it. And I just think that's funny. yeah, so started there. Wu-Tang Forever, I think it's a great song. I don't really have too much to say about it. I just like the flow of it. So I can start flying through. We don't have to talk about every single song, but like Own It too. Like I don't have much there. I think that's probably for me the most forgettable song on the album. I really don't.
I think that one,
like it does nothing for me.
No, that's top 2 of ranked in forgettableness for me.
What's the other one?
305.
Yes, I was literally about to say that. It's 305 and Own It, and they're both like Details featured in 305, and he produced both these songs, which I just find funny. So like the sound that Detail was trying to bring in is very similar on both of those, and like I don't need either of them. I get the point. I think well, we'll get there, but I think Own It, actually, this is interesting. Own It really goes well with the ending of Wu-Tang Forever. Like they transition really well together as a pair of songs.
Yeah.
And 305 is track 11, and the track 10, so the one above it, is The Language, and they float really well together as a pair of songs. And I think those are the two best, like, it's the only two cruxes of the album to me that like float really well.
That is interesting.
Is those two.
To think about it that way. But
and he ties it like Wu-Tang, it kind of like drops out, and what he's saying at the end then gets picked up into Own It. And at the end of The Language, he's talking about like, I could fly girls in from Miami to heat up the summer, and then it goes into 305 to my city, which is 305 is the area code for Miami. So like they really paired that well to me, where it was like, here's the flow there. Now does the sound flow as much? Like that's the thing, but the way they set it up worked. So that was skipping around. Track 6 though, that's got to be one of the funniest songs of the album, was Worst Behavior. Worst. Motherfucker never loved us. Worst. I mean, I run around screaming worst all the time. That'll never get old. It's just the most ridiculous song of all time.
It's up there.
Like I would love to know like who didn't love Drake like back in the day. Like he's really pissed. And like, who was that? Bro, it's Aubrey Graham. Somebody was mad.
I don't know, dude. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a ridiculous song.
That's all that needs to be said. There's nothing more than that. From Time, beautiful song. Beautiful song. Jhené Aiko, I love Jhené Aiko, and that's a great beat too. Yeah, and this is like one of the songs on the album, and I think there's a few where like Drake says something. Like some of the other songs are just like, what is going on? Like he definitely, like Worst Behavior, that's like when Drake became the meme. Like Drake, I don't think was a meme until this album, and then he starts becoming a meme because it's like, did you start from the bottom? Now you're on your worst behavior. Like it's, I do just love the claim of like, it's one of the best braggadocious tracks of all time, where you just go like, I'm on my worst behavior. Like, what are you gonna say? Like you can't really like complain to someone who states that. Like I'm acting a fool. I'm being a dumbass right now. Like I just like, what the hell? And then it goes right into From Time. Like none of that melds well, because From Time is talking about like trying to get a relationship and hold it down. So I guess you could say it's like a dichotomy approach, but I don't know.
I guess so. Yeah. But continuing on
Definitely
with the track list. Oh, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah. The next song is your favorite, bro. Just Hold On, We're Going Home. Come on.
Like I said, the music video landed big at my high school more than anything else.
You got to give a description of it.
Of the video? I will say, so I re-listened to the album. I did not rewatch the video over this past week. I probably should have. But no, like I said, I remember it from then, of just the cinematography of the break-in, the kidnapping, the guns just like constantly firing for really no reason. It was not a very discreet affair, and maybe that it was kind of by design.
The premise of the video is like Drake's at a club with his homies, and his girl's like getting ready at the house, and people kidnap her, and then Drake has to come and get her. and he
Right.
brings all the boys, and they just get like all these weapons and go. And the song's very much just like a dance club song. It has nothing to do with like violence. Like it's
No,
such
I
an
think
odd.
that was really the funny part of it too, right? Is that what you are watching does not go with what you are hearing, both in lyrics and also in just in the sound and the engineering. Like it is a very I don't want to say mellow, that's not the right word, but it kind of is.
It's
like,
a mellow
just,
song. It's a very mellow song. Yeah.
It's a slower, it's mellow, and then to be watching, like aggression and violence on screen. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea, but somehow, some way, it worked. It resonated with the kids, I guess. If that was the target audience, probably not. But I guess it falls into the Drake meme era. It was kind of peak, and I guess that's what happens right when you are like really catching stride and blowing up. That's when, I guess that's when you're at your most. Or that's when the world has the most opportunities to point out and like kind of nitpick at little things, because everything you're doing is in the spotlight, and so it's not like some parts of it could fly under the radar. That wasn't really a choice for anything on this album. It got.
That's interesting.
Everything got looked at.
Right. That's really true.
Like you couldn't have a throwaway track because this was under such like limelight.
And you know what I find interesting too is this is, I think, I don't know if in time, but it is the shortest of his projects in terms of how many tracks are on that album. Like he usually has massive albums because of the fact that like I can do so many different variations of songs. Like this one felt like it was trying to be the most concise and like I'm really trying to say something. And I don't even know if it hit that, but I mean, do like how it was 13 songs, deluxe 15.
Yeah, and even on the deluxe, it comes in at. Oh, I just had it.
Just over an hour?
It's just over an hour. I was going to pull up the exact number, but I don't have it in front of me, or I can't relocate it on Spotify, wherever it was. But it comes in at just over an hour. So it's not a lengthy listen, I guess. But
right.
The whole hour of it was scrutinized. For good, for better or for worse.
And you go on a roller coaster. Yeah, that's facts. For better or for worse is facts. But we're on our debate. We're like halfway through. That's Hold On, We're Going Home is track 8. 9's Connect. We can skip that. I don't really have much to say about Connect. Sure. Then we go into Language 305, which we talked about. This is what gets odd though. So you have From Time, R&B, Hold On, We're Going Home, R&B, Connect, an R&B song, Language, pure like braggadocious rap song. The one thing I do love about the Language is just his flow. I think that's just an awesome flow, and the way he like chops into it. I do really like the sound of it. 305 to My City, now another R&B song. Too Much is a comboed R&B rap. Like it, very odd. Just like this one song of just like on you of like we smoke a fuck, man, girl. That's all that we do. Like what? Like it just didn't fit. Like what was going to Connect? He's trying like From Time is he's trying to find a girl. Hold On, We're Going Home. And he's trying to come home from the club. Same with Connect. Language is just like I'll fuck anybody. What's good? And then 305 to My City is pretty much like I'm trying to find the girl in the club. Like it I don't know. I don't understand how you go from like one variation to the other, and like maybe in Fame, like I can't relate to anything like that. You just feel so like disjointed based on everything going on. But you feel that a lot on Take Care, which is the first album, and now we're seeing it again on Nothing Was the Same. It seems like a lot to me.
I wonder.
That's my thoughts through there.
It was something that I like. This might be, I don't know, too deep, but there is no kind of too deep for these types of discussions that we're having, I guess. The only thing is that we definitely we're taking a lot of time getting through this, but that's okay. everything that you're talking about there on how it is all similar and that it's like trying to find the girl, I got the girl, I don't have the girl. I wondered if a lot of that did have to do with the fame, the fortune, and kind of the way that fucks with relationships. And
right.
Depending on the person that you're with, and especially for being someone as high at a peak as Drake was at this time, if things were feeling like transactional instead of genuine, and that's kind of what led to it being so volatile in a way.
Right.
Is that there wasn't like a true love or a true respect for each other, but it was either for status or whatever, and it kind of led to instability in that part of his life.
100%. And I think that's probably what he talks about the most in all of his music, but I do think you're right. I think that's why you get to that point. I do find this album interesting in the first few songs. Like the first half I like a lot, middle's whatever to me, and then the latter half I absolutely love, like Too Much being track 12.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best songs ever made, as far as I'm concerned. Like this has to be a top 4 Drake song of all time for me. Especially Sampha just carries the hook on it. Just gorgeous. Like there's really not much more to say other than that.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I agree with you 100%. It's a beautiful song to listen to.
It's awesome. It like any mood, like there's rapping in it, there's R&B, like it just perfectly encompasses just music. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, it's a good way
that's
to put
the
it.
song, and that's where I say like there's such highs on this album with Too Much, and then the next song with Pound Cake, and then there's some of these songs where you're just like, what's going on? Like Own It. You're like, I don't connect. Like I don't know. There's this low, there's this high for and that's subjective, but for me. But then Pound Cake obviously closes. We love that song so much that we use it as an outro. But
we do.
One of the greatest beats ever made, in my opinion. And then you have Jay-Z come through and clean it up. And I know there's Paris Morton at the end, but I don't. It doesn't even matter. Pound Cake by itself would sell. You put Paris Morton at the end. It's just a good ending to the album, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And I guess we have to talk about the deluxe. Come Through, fun song. Cool ending with the chop. And then All Me.
Yeah.
We'll have to have a debate on All Me.
I think obviously we mentioned the deluxe, but I think looking at just the original, a way that I was able to kind of tie the whole album together, if it did end with Pound Cake, is that when you start out with Tuscan Leather, going back to the very beginning, and the way that there's no hook, and it's like, I'm here. It was a very like it was a very ambitious start. Like I felt like the album, I guess I'll just try to synthesize my thoughts into one sentence. It feels like the album starts with ambition and ends with reflection.
Yes, that's true. It's very true.
And I feel like that when you can take a step back and look at the full arc, especially if it just ended right at Pound Cake, to your point, Paris Morton 2, great. But even if that wasn't there, when you can tie the whole thing together, I don't know, that's something that I guess I look for in an album. If I am going to listen to one from start to finish, is I'm trying to kind of find a narrative arc, a story, an emotional arc, something to it. And so I think being able to put those two side by side, and then you're on, I guess, a little bit of a roller coaster in between, like we've talked about, but going from I'm here, I'm doing everything I can, and then reflecting in Pound Cake on like, I got the fame, I got the wealth. I don't know if he's fulfilled yet, though. I don't think he has kind of fulfillment in his career at this point. And I think he's still trying to kind of find that. He's trying to find a level of confidence that can overcome his insecurities in some ways. I don't know. I might be getting a little too like deep and emotional with it, but I think that's just a lot of the things that come to the top of my mind as I listen to it from start to finish.
But I don't think you are, because if you, like, obviously hindsight now, but looking into the beef between Kendrick and Drake, this just put a lot. I know I'm going to come back to this a lot, but it put a lot of emphasis on like really understanding the artists as who they were.
Mm.
That's a big part of who Kendrick is. It's just admitting that, like, I'm broken, and here it is, and I'm trying to fix it. I don't know if I can. Here's why, this and that. You feel it with Drake, but you don't know why, and there wasn't necessarily like a here's the next step, and it's almost all the time, right? Like, you could tell this guy's kind of lost.
Yeah.
But like,
no,
he doesn't really
understand
say
that.
You
Yeah,
know?
a lot of it is
that's
kind
interesting.
of, yeah, a lot of it you kind of have to infer, and you have to think on it to draw that conclusion, because it's not in your face necessarily. No, I think,
and not that it has to be in your face either, right? But that it's just also like, you are saying some of these things that we're picking up on, and you're reflecting, and there's just very honesty. But then you also have a song like Just Hold On, We're Going Home, that's just kind of like the biggest hit, and it masks everything else that's going on with the project as a whole. Like, he's really good at making good songs. Is the album, the story that you're telling, has that fully come to fruition for us, or are we still searching? And that, to me, is an interesting part with Drake. And I also think it showcases, the fame and who he was as a person. So I think it was nailed in that regard, but I do think it shows that. And that's what's interesting, like, looking back in hindsight now and seeing these projects, like, right. Kendrick has a point there. And not that he's right or wrong in blaming him, but just like, it is true. Like, you don't know. And it's kind of sad. But I will say, I was listening to this and my brain went into what would Nick D do as a track list for the set songs. And so I'm curious to hear your opinion on this after now listening to the album. So I kept the intro the same, because I really do love the first two and the way it lays out. So Tuscan into Furthest Thing. But then I switch it up and I go Worst Behavior as track 3. So you come off Furthest Thing from Perfect into Worst Behavior. I feel like just even title and idea flow really well.
Sure.
But I want to keep like the heavy rap going. So I go Worst Behavior into The Language, which is also very similar to Worst Behavior in me in terms of like concept of what you're talking about. But like I said, Language and 305 flow really well. So 305's next. So we're starting to go slower. Then I go into Wu-Tang, followed by Own It. So keeping those two together. Hold On stays, I think that's track 8, stays where it was. So Hold On, We're Going Home is following Own It.
Yeah.
Which, when you listen, it kind of has that flow, but I like that. A song that, what's the point? But Connect follows Hold On. Then I go to From Time, Too Much. Started from the bottom, I have as a close, and then Pound Cake to close the song. So I've started from the bottom as track 12 here. So second from the last. So the biggest switch to me is moving started from the top to the bottom. And I do this because I almost like it as a close, in the sense that you're talking about all these things, but then you remind everybody, like, no, I started from the bottom, but now we're here. Like, so here's this just like banger for you, and now the close. I think what I just said is how I would have loved to listen to this album. But again, I don't know the artist's mindset, and I'm not here to judge on that regard. This to me just makes sense from who I am, and if I was in the room, that's how I would have suggested it.
Right. Yeah, I've got the album, the track list in front of me here, and I'm just kind of visualizing as you go through that. I don't have anywhere to disagree with your logic. I could absolutely see listening to these tracks in the order that you just laid out and having an enjoyable listening experience, and potentially, like we've kind of talked about throughout our whole discussion here, feeling a little bit more steady of a ride instead of up and down, back and forth. it's almost like what you described there. Yeah, it kind of provides like a smoother experience. But I guess to your point, sound-wise, definitely sound-wise.
Right.
But going back to what we were talking about earlier, how there is kind of a sequence of songs that the message of the song in its current state, going from one to the next, makes sense.
Correct.
And so, yeah, obviously, the artist and his team had a vision, and they went with
OVO
tracklist yeah, exactly. So, I could see it going either. Like, obviously, this has been out for more than a decade now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But
that is.
I would be actually very intrigued to like basically create a playlist or just create a queue right in that order that you just described and play it and give it another go and see how that changes the listening experience, if at all. But that's cool.
I haven't done that yet. So, folks, if you do it, let us know. I think another thing to mention, and we can start getting into wrapping our review, but this is one of the coolest covers of all time for a rap project. And I think an awesome thing is when you do have deluxe versions, they don't necessarily tie to each other, but the regular version is supposed to be him as a child looking that direction, and the deluxe is him as he was at that age looking back. And I do think that's really cool. And I also just love the clouds. It's a nice little color scheme here.
It's a nice touch.
I think that showcase as well. Yes, I think it is cool to mention.
If you, in theory, had both records, if you had the original and the deluxe, and you could have them side by side, the way that he would be looking at himself is I think, again, goes back to that very kind of introspective state that he was in at the time of looking back and thinking about the whole journey, I guess, getting him eventually to releasing this.
Which is cool, but then it's funny because he's like thinking back to when he was a child, and he's, rapping on the language about how he's going to take your girl. I'm like, I don't know if as a kid he was thinking about that. Like,
probably not.
I just think it's funny. Like, it almost like he tried to make a very deep message on something that wasn't as deep, but then you could argue because of that it's deeper. I don't know. It's weird, but it's
interesting.
Drake.
Yeah, I guess
the best way to put it is that it's Drake, and that's why I laugh when I hear things. And of course, you got to say it. Worst. You know what I mean? It's just
on that worst behavior. Well, I guess, I mean, to your point, as we get approaching an hour here on this episode already, starting to close this out with the album reviews, with this one being our first. For our listeners here, I thought it would be fun, and this is something you and I went over ahead of time, but I thought it would be fun as a way to kind of close out and a way to kind of put a bow on every episode that we do from here on out, to have kind of like a scoring system towards the end. And so my view of that is that we have a handful of categories, and we basically rate this project on a scale of 1 to 10 per category. And then come the end of it, we would have a total score, both my total score and your total score. So we rate them separately. And I guess maybe there's something to be said about, should we sum our scores as like an overall interlude ranking? Or I also kind of like the dynamicism in a way of having my take and your take. Because I think obviously we're very different people. Like we talked about, we come from very different music backgrounds and different kind of expertise levels when it comes to this type of stuff. So I think it'll be interesting to get your takes there.
Yeah, music's different for everybody too. It's the best part. It's a subjective thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So kicking us off, category number 1, sound and production. So the beats, the sound engineering, the overall production value of the record.
And we are going to go out of 10, right?
Out of 10.
For each category.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to jump in. I can give you my take.
Sure. I can start this off. I want to mention too that there's going to be a category of cohesion and flow. So when we talk about production, we're talking mostly just actual beat production in the sound. And here, because of that, I actually really love the production and the sound of this music.
Mm-hmm.
So, damn, out of 10, what would I want to go? I might go 8 or 9, bro. What do you got?
So I gave it an 8. I did give it an 8.
Yeah.
And I think this is still kind of to be determined for us as well. Are we only going whole numbers? We doing 0.5s? I guess we'll see when we get there. But for now, I gave it an 8, mainly because the thing that stood out to me listening now in 2026 on an album that came out in 2013 is that the beats have aged really well.
Yes, they did.
They are almost a classic sound. They're almost kind of, I don't want to call them minimal, but they are kind of minimal, and like they're not trying to do too much. And because of that, I think they've been able to age really well.
They have. And I think you're 100%
it's not like
right.
It's not like he was trying to chase any sort of trend at the time. He put something out, and it has lasted.
I agree. Yeah, I'm gonna go 9. I'm even gonna push that. I'll go 9 there because I really like that.
Cool. Well, then moving on, category number 2, folks, that we're gonna get into is writing and lyrics, and so I think that's pretty self-explanatory right there.
Yeah, there's some of the most memorable bars of all time. You know, like my high school reunion might be worth an appearance. Make everybody go through security clearance. Bro, I was running through I was in high school. I was like, damn, I'm coming home. Everyone's going through like that. That was so hard. Furthest thing, worst. Oh man, so I think there's like great one-liners. I don't know if it's as a whole. So I might have to go like a 6 or 7 here.
Yeah, again, I think we're on the same wavelength. I went with a 7, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'll stick with you. Just because of Too Much and Pound Cake and Tuscan. Those 3 songs in and of itself hold their own.
I think that's part of what kind of kept me at a 7. I think another thing that I don't want this to be a knock on it. Like obviously a 7 out of 10 is still a pretty solid score here. But like we've talked about throughout this whole review, I think this album is not as poetic as Take Care was. And so if you were listening to it at the time, true. I think that kind of detracts. But to your point, yeah, there are great one-liners and there are great songs on here that keep it at a very solid, respectable
It's a really good point. It really isn't as poetic. Yeah.
So, no, I'm right there with you. Then we get to cohesion and flow.
Yeah, this has got to be lower.
Yeah.
You could see that there's a purpose behind it, but I'm still going to have to go in the 4 or 5 region, right? Like,
okay.
Where are you at?
No, I think that's fair. Imagine if you could have listened to it in your suggested
that's
reordering of the tracks, then there would have been many smoother transitions. I think with like we talked about, there are a couple like duos of songs throughout that it's like, oh yeah, that flow was perfect. You didn't like no notes, didn't need to change anything there. And then this is kind of I think our take on this category of cohesion and flow might evolve as we talk about different albums, because I think kind of sound wise, like we've talked about, it's kind of back and forth. But then like I mentioned, the emotional arc when you do take a step back and look at starting with ambition and ending with reflection, there is, I don't know. I had a higher score, honestly, written down, but the more that we talked about it and I understand and I see your points more, I think I'll land around like a 6.
Well, but you know what's interesting here is there's 2 ways to almost look at it. Is cohesion and flow of an album, and then the flow that he carries on each song in general, which flow is really almost just a rap term. Could be kind of wrong on that. I mean, it focuses on all genres, but just like how you literally ride the beat, where like what I was saying is the language, it might not be the most like lyrically potent song, but it's one of the best flows that I've heard. So
Sure.
if we look at this, and this is just us debating what this category would be, from that perspective, it's different because I took this category as the album rather than like his flow. So maybe we work like lyrics and flow into the category. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think this can be kind of an evolving score sheet as we kind of nail down the best way to talk about it. I also was thinking about it from an album perspective when I thought that this would be a good category to score on. I was thinking at the album level,
and that's totally fair. And I feel like these two do work together though, because even like you still have the flow on a song, and the flow that you have on a song really does make the project as a whole. And we're not really talking about songs; we're talking about a project. So I said 4 originally for cohesion more, but I do really like flow on this, so I will bump this up, and I'm actually going to go then maybe a 6.
Okay.
If we're considering cohesion plus flow.
Yeah. Okay. I think we landed around the same spot there as well.
You're going 6?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then we got replay value. So you're going to go back to it. You're going to play it again from top to bottom.
Yep. This has to be the highest replay value of all Drake albums for me. And that's not even me saying this is the best. This is just the highest replay volume, which I think really does tie into the nostalgia aspect with a lot of this. But I do think there's just standouts that are some of my favorites, so that those are on playlists of mine that I will obviously go back to. But I just love the way this project sounds. I really do.
Yeah.
Like a 9's high, but like I
don't think it's that crazy.
Better. Like,
I don't think it's crazy. I had it at an 8. I had it pretty high at an 8. I think in modern day, as we've said, hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah,
I find that this is a good album on like a late night. Like if you're going to be up late, I feel like this is a good thing that I would want to throw on to kind of wind the night down a little bit, I guess. But like that has a purpose, that has a value, that has a specific time where I would gravitate back towards this project.
Right. No, it's interesting. I'm looking through his discography now of like what I'd go back to and play, and like that's definitely the top one.
Yeah.
Damn, I feel like I'm just copying you on all these scores, but I kind of like 8 there.
No, I mean, I think we're on a similar wavelength, even though we're coming at it from kind of different angles. So I think that's okay. The last place that we end up is just trying to give it an overall kind of out of 10. If you want to take that as like the vibe, if you want to take that as taking the previous 4 categories and kind of adding them all up into one. Again, I think for our listeners here, you're going to see that this is our first time taking a pass at this new format here. And so some stuff's definitely going to continue to evolve.
This is true.
That's kind of been the MO of Interlude thus far too, is that, this is Interlude Spins. This is where we do record reviews, but we're still here growing ourselves, growing skill set, growing a podcast. And so, I think things are not necessarily set in stone right here, but right now, the way that we've been thinking about things is, and overall out of 10. Or I got this.
This is me just thinking off dome. We had 5 categories. We could split cohesion and flow, and then you just do your own overall score out of 10, but we could make that like you add in the 0.5s and whatnot. So that could be a very detailed, so that we could then rank all of the albums we do instead of doing like a clean number. That's just an idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
if you like that.
I do. I think we definitely ran into a little something here now, actually having the conversation that maybe cohesion and flow are slightly, they're related, but maybe they're not the same.
Well, let's just stick with what we got, and we'll go from there for next week.
For now, out of 10, if I were just rating the whole album, I'm at an 8. And maybe that's.
That's about what I was going to say.
I think that's
exactly what I was going to say.
a culmination of everything that we've talked about so far. So for me, I know I had my scores written down in front of me, and I had a little bit of a change of heart throughout the course of our episode. But overall, when I go top to bottom, the 5 different scores that we did, I land at a 37 out of 50, which puts the album overall, if we were then doing that, I guess it comes to what is that, a 7.4 across the board.
Well, I was going to ask you
that
weird. if you wanted to rank this album on a grade point average scale, so A, B, C aspect, what score would you give it?
Yeah. Huh. Thinking about it that way. My head is at like a B, and so in terms of grade points, that's an 83 to an 86. So it's actually a little bit higher. But no, maybe an 82? Can I give it an 82?
82. Okay.
So I guess that's a B minus technically, but it's barely a B minus.
You're going B minus on it? All right. Yeah, I had this a lot higher. I was going to go like 9.2, 9.3. So
wow,
A minus.
Yeah, that's up there.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is quality work, but really diving in now, looking back, I think there's things that could change. So I'll go 9.2. This is just with everything in consideration because it's subjective, but like what it makes me feel in sometimes when I do overall grades, I always think of like influence as well. And like I think this project was pretty influential, like as you mentioned. So sure. I go probably 9.2.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I wasn't factoring that in, and I guess that comes back to our different kind of views of music and different expertise in the genre and all that. And so, but I think that's...
We got 8.2, we got 9.2. That's it, dude.
I think that's all right.
See, this is why I like the overall score, because when we broke down the categories, I think we're very in line. But then when you have your overall feel, that really does show like the subjectiveness of music, which I think is cool. And so that's pretty sweet. I like that. So maybe we'll revise this and get back to you, kind folks, on our next rendition.
The LNL folks, the lovely listeners.
Come on now.
Well, I guess speaking of getting back to our lovely listeners here, I think at this stage of the game we've been on for quite a while. So appreciate all the LNLs for bearing with us as we get through this new format change and exactly how we want to tackle this. But I think we've come to the point in the episode where we're ready to announce next week's project that we're going to be diving into. So I don't know if you want to pull it up. You want to give a little bit of explanation.
I got you. So folks, first and foremost, thank you for hanging with us. Obviously, nothing was the same. Hopefully you don't think we were on our worst behavior, but here's the deal. This may or may not be our worst Spins music podcast. And folks, I wouldn't be mad if that's the case because we're only getting better from there. But because of that, we're going to go back to another introspection. We did kind of spin a random generator to see what we wanted to go. But this project that we're pulling up, very, very interesting in the sense that it's a lot similar feel to Nothing Was the Same. This project's title is Before the Money. So looking back, and this is Joey Badass, of course. So this is New York's finest. This album, I think, is really good. This came out around the same time. I'll have to look at the exact date and all that. But
2015,
definitely going back. It was 2015. Okay, so 2 years later. This is a pure rap album where I would say Drake's isn't. This definitely is. He was a young kid, kind of our generation, maybe you could say. Maybe he's a millennial. He's a few years older than us. But going back to kind of the old 90s hip-hop roots and what the old New York sound was and bringing that back, I think that's what's really interesting about this. And this is a project where he's setting himself on the map. Where, like, we were talking about Nothing Was the Same. He's here. He's proving. This is definitely, I'm proving, but I'm also trying to show up and show the world. who I am on my first studio album. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We got it rolling, and we'll be seeing you soon.
We absolutely will. And so after reviewing Nothing Was the Same, obviously it's only fitting, folks, that this concludes another episode of the Interlude Pod. This concludes the first episode of Interlude Spins. That's Nickie D. I'm your co-host, Todd. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode half as much as we've enjoyed making it for you.
Because we had a ball. And only real ideas are going to last. And all that other bullshit is here today and gone tomorrow.
So without further ado, we will see everybody next week for a little bit of Joey Badass. Good night, New York.
Good night, Connecticut.